episode like this even come together? Like, what's the first cut? Like 3 hours long?
Yeah,
like,
seriously.
how?
I mean, it's definitely a lot longer, for sure. Oh, yeah, twice as long, I think, sometimes.
How much footage is actually shot versus how much is actually used?
Well, you're talking about 10 to 11 minutes of footage for 8 hours of content, so.
There's a lot of killing babies, as we say.
A lot of babies.
That's your term for it? We gotta kill this baby?
Really tough storylines that, yeah, it was a tough one.
There's a
Our
lot
scene
of
of the
stuff.
last episode was really just getting it down to time. It was so big, and there was so much great stuff that, yeah, it was tough to get it down to the time it needed to be at.
It's a
So.
good problem to have,
Yeah.
to be fair, but yeah, when you shoot for 10 to 11 months and you have to whittle it down to 8 hours, it's very challenging at times. You really sort of kind of get, maybe not depressed, but sort of kind of like, well, maybe depressed about some of the things we have to leave on the floor, but just like,
Sometimes, yeah.
yeah, for sure. But no, it's a challenge. That's one of the biggest challenges.
There are times where, like, we'll sit in a room when we can't get together. A lot of this is done very remotely, speaking of our story team and our editors. And so that's another thing, like, just to have people back there who are part of this, all in the same place. Is that we'll sit in a room when we're lucky enough to be in the room. Brian is in Utah, sometimes he comes out. So we'll have the Zoom camera pointed at our whiteboard. And Andy and Cody can speak to it too. A lot of times we'll talk and then we just sort of walk out of the room. And I don't know what they're saying behind our backs. They can speak about that now. But we have these different sort of categories. We're talking about killing your babies, and we have a place called the graveyard.
Oh,
And,
It's really sad.
and it is, because these are stories that some of them have been shot. Some of them we know could be good one day. That's why season 5's there. So there's already something where which one of you guys are like, hey, we can go to the graveyard now. And we can take that one up.
I think one of the most beautiful things about the show is getting to watch what happens through the eyes of the town and everyone that lives in Wrexham and the fans. And how do you choose those stories each season? How do you know which ones to hold for the next season? How do you know what characters, and I know they're real people obviously, but how do you know what characters to invest the time in?
It's a case-by-case basis. We are presented with a lot of choices from our team in the UK that we have pounding the pounding the pavement and going door to door, really canvassing and trying to find these stories. And it's a massive challenge because it's not that it's hard to find people who have stories. Everybody has stories. But what the challenge is getting people to talk about those stories in depth, emotionally, on camera for what is, especially now, a worldwide documentary. People are like, oh, I'm going to tell you this, but I know the world's going to see it. In the beginning, I think maybe some people are even like, yeah, I'll tell you my story, and I'm going to write something, who's going to watch this, who's going to shit about this kind of which is valid, I mean, but now it's like, that is the challenge, getting people to open up about them. It takes a lot of work from our UK team. And then we get presented with stuff, and we have to go through it, and we collaborate, and we make decisions.
So when you're putting an episode together, do you script it out in a way that, okay, we're gonna have some of the match right here, but we want an emotional beat right here. We know that we're going to go visit this kid who has cancer in the hospital right here, and then we're gonna lighten it up a bit, showing, Humphrey doing his marathon stuff, but then we're gonna go back to the kids, and then there's always the women. There's so many elements. How much is, I don't know, is it scripted out? How is it planned out?
Storyboard. I want these two to answer that. It's champions of the whiteboard.
It's index cards and just throwing shit at the wall and then figuring it out from there. Like, it's a lot of the time taking some. Obviously, we have a narrative built into the show in terms of the fact that we have the men's, women's, and academy teams doing. We can't affect that, we can't script that or anything like that. So we've kind of got that as a through line through the series, whether we like it or not. And then we have the town stories and the way that the team in the UK are working tirelessly to kind of get to know people as much as possible, to try and tie that in as much as whenever they can, and trying to figure out a way to try and make those stories kind of weave into the story that the teams are presenting to us already, and trying to kind of like get that